Hey guys, Jennifer here from Edible Sugar Art. Today we are going to be making some American buttercream. I have another tutorial up on my site for our space case buttercream, which is a completely smooth, airless buttercream. But when I edited it, I did it at like 1.5 speed. So there was a little bit of fast talking. I talk fast normally anyhow on regular speed, so it was probably like 3.5. So a few people wanted a slower version, which is cool because I also do it a different way now. It still comes out with the beautiful, smooth, airless buttercream, no air bubbles, goes on smooth on your cake, which we'll show you at the end. But it also doesn't make a mess. We start out with our confectioner's sugar in the bowl and add our cream. We add our shortening and butter mixture later, and that creates a kind of emulsion of the sugar and the cream, and there's no like nuclear cloud explosion when you go to make your mix. So you're not going to have an entire kitchen and house to dust afterwards if you forgot to cover your bowl. So we're going to start. We're starting with our 8-quart mixer here. Our 8-quart bowl, we have 6 pounds of confectionate sugar, which is just the fine buttercream sugar. And then we are using our shortening and butter mix. For where I am, I use half shortening, half butter, or some type of ratio depending on the weather. You can do the same. We're using 2 pounds of Sweet Tex high ratio shortening and then a pound of butter. And depending on the temperature and the weather, you can adjust that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so what we have here is our 8-quart bowl. We have 6 pounds of confectionate sugar. And then I am adding to that 2 cups of heavy cream. This has been heated for a couple of minutes in the microwave, so it's nice and warm. You definitely do want to make sure it's nice and warm. It helps kind of the sugar absorb into the cream. And then we're gonna add about 2 tablespoons. I just like to do 2 good sized squirts there of our vanilla extract. Sometimes I also like to add a little bit of lemon extract, just a drop to it, and a little drop of almond extract. I am doing this backwards so it's facing you guys. Turn it to me for a second so I can get my mixing bowl on. There we go. All right, so we have our cream, our vanilla extract, any flavorings you want to add. I am gonna add just like a half a teaspoon of salt. If you're using salted butter, you do not have to do that. And then we're gonna raise this up and slowly start it off here. And I like to just pulse it a few times while it gets going and starts to coat that sugar and the cream and make more of a slurry versus the powder. And you will see how easy this is. I'll never go back to adding the sugar to the butter. So if you can see, the butter has now absorbed the sugar. And we're just gonna go ahead and turn this up for a minute. We're gonna go ahead and let this mix for about 2 minutes just to let that sugar and cream really come together. And you can see it has now made a very thick icing. If you don't have a scraper blade, this is a good time to stop your mixer and scrape the bottom of your bowl. But if you do, then we're just gonna start adding in our shortening and butter. All right, so with our mixer on low, we're gonna go ahead and start adding in our butter and shortening mixture. Again, you can do this at whatever ratio you would like. It works good with a full butter. If you are in a cooler environment, And it also works good with a shortening such as Sweet Tex high ratio blend if you are in a warmer environment or a more humid environment. And I don't even really do this slow, I just do it and add it in because we're going to turn this up on high and it's going to blend all together. This is my favorite way to make icing now because I don't have all that mess. Once we have this in there, just go ahead and scrape around the top edge of your bowl. You may want to stop your mixer for this part so you don't get it caught in there. So at this point, we're going to watch it. Depending on the temperature and all that, again, can depend on whether you feel like you need to add a little bit more sugar if it's too soft, or a little bit more cream if it's really thick. Generally, I will end up adding probably up to a quarter cup more heavy cream. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and mix it. We're gonna turn it up to high and we're gonna let it go for about 5 minutes and then we'll be back. Guys, we're a couple minutes into it. We're still going to let it mix for a few more minutes, but I wanted to show you how it was looking. It went from that paste we made to it's already getting very creamy, beautiful frosting, but it still has, as you can see, these are what I would consider air bubbles, where you scoop it up and you can see, well, the little air bubbles in it where they were. So that's what we're going to be getting rid of, but we don't do that until after it's fully incorporated. But you can see, even like that, it's still a really good icing. But we're going to go ahead and let it whip for a couple more minutes, and then we'll come back, check it, and turn it down to low, and that's when it'll work out its air bubbles. One of the important things with this icing is you want to make sure your bowl is full enough that your paddle is completely submerged, because when we turn it down to low and whip it for a few minutes, that is what's really going to work out the air bubbles, is having that paddle submerged down into the buttercream. So here we go again. All right guys, we have mixed it on high for about 5 minutes now. You definitely want to give it that full amount of time to mix. I'm going to tilt this to you. If you can see how shiny and smooth it is, definitely has changed a lot from when we first put it in. The nicest thing, you can see there has been, I have not wiped down my counter or my mixer. Everything is still completely clean. You can see how smooth the buttercream already is. When you wipe it in there, just absolutely beautiful. So as you can see here, the paddle is completely submerged in the buttercream. That is what is allowing the air to be worked out of it. We're not bringing in more air like we would with a whisk. This part is so important for getting out those final bubbles that are going to cause little divots in your buttercream. The first part of mixing is equally as important, because that is what really allows us to create that emulsion between the butter and our shortening and the cream and the sugar. We really want those butter and shortening particles to kind of soak up that cream and the sugar. And the way to do that is just to keep mixing it until you see that shiny, really smooth buttercream start to come together. And you can see here how smooth it and shiny it is already getting just by a couple minutes here in the mixer. We're gonna let this go for a couple more minutes and then we'll be right back. All right guys, we are back. I just wanted to show you how this is looking, how gorgeous and smooth this buttercream had become. Absolutely beautiful. I did not add any more cream to this one or sugar. It was exactly how we started off. And do you see that? Absolutely glorious. Oh my goodness, absolutely none of those little divots like that we saw earlier, and any tiny ones that you would have just after you ice your cake, put it in the fridge, let this chill, and then just run a warm cake comb over the outside. That'll be some of the smoothest icing you get for an American buttercream. So we are going to go ahead and I'm going to take this out, which is always the messy part, right? But I want you to see it. How beautiful that buttercream is. Look at that. Let me go through it, how smooth it leaves. Just with a spatula, this isn't even with a smooth edged cake knife. Just a smack. That is what your buttercream should look like when you go to ice a cake. It makes it so much easier to get the finish that you want when you are starting with the right base. If you don't have the right tools, if you don't have the right recipes, trying to work on your art and work on your cakes becomes a lot more difficult than when you know the correct way to do it. And if you start off with a buttercream like this, it's gonna be so much easier when you're trying to get that smooth finish on your cakes. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed. I will be back and show you this on a cake on another video, and I will see you soon. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know if you have any questions below.